Hi there, my name is Memo, this is my channel Houseplanty Goodness, and essentially, as you might be able to see behind me, it's a place where I like to geek out about my big passion, which is tropical houseplants. And I'm hoping that if you've stumbled across this video, it might be one of your big passions as well. So get comfy, we're going to talk about the plant that you can see right next to me. And I've had to put a chair and sit it on because it's just kind of an awkward grower, and I will talk a bit more about it and show you a bit more of the morphology, my experience with it. I've not had it for an awful long period of time, so this is just an initial video to kind of say what has worked for me so far, but I'm sure there will be an update on this at some time in the near future. And in case you haven't already guessed, this is the Philodendron Pastazanum, not the Philodendron McDowell. Don't I wish. Philodendron McDowell is still on my wish list, and it has been there for 3 years. I've just not been able to find a large enough specimen at a reasonable price that I would like to pay for. So for now, I thought I'd just get the Philodendron Pastazanum, and you can see it's still got some of that pillowy appearance to the leaves, so the kind of ripples that you get. It is a very large heart-shaped leaf, similar to the Gloriosum. It is not, however, velvety like the Gloriosum. This is slightly more leathery. Now, let me bring this up and you might be able to see why I've got it sitting down on a chair next to me. So you can see here, there's loads of other leaves. I got it originally with these two smaller leaves that you can see here on the side and one of the larger leaves on the top. And I think since being in my care for about a month now, it's grown 2 leaves. And you might be able to see it is in pon. So I'm growing it in pon, and I've got actually a Lechuza planter. Annoyingly, when I bought this, I thought it was larger because the plant was pretty much, the stem was almost as long as it is now, and I thought I was going to have a bit more space to go. So I'm going to be buying another one of these, but the slightly longer one and a bit more expensive. Yay! But it's fine because what I will do is reuse this for my smaller Gloriosum cutting, which is doing really well and it's growing quite nicely. And I want to attempt moving that over into pon and see how well it does, because I think a lot of people have had good success on that one. And you might be able to see, obviously, this is a creeper or a crawler. And I'll bring it in a bit closer and hopefully that will focus and not focus on my face. But it is a creeper or a crawler, depending on how you want to say it. And you can see there is a new growth point that's coming there. And that's the kind of point of creepers and crawlers, is that there's always going to be a growing tip at the very end. So just make sure that you've got plenty of space for them to grow into. Let me just put this down because it's heavy. Right, you can still see the plant there, but let me talk a bit more about the care that I've found for this plant. It's obviously in my conservatory slash plant room slash hothouse. Currently, the humidity in here is about 61 to 65% from what I can see. It's a relatively low humidity day, but the temperature is sweltering hot in here at the moment. It's between 28 and 29 degrees Celsius. It's not always like this. But I'm kind of getting a bit of lunchtime, which is when I'm filming this, lunchtime sun. So it kind of bakes the room a bit, essentially. So we've got loads of fans, don't worry. I've got windows open, things like that. So the plants are getting some air circulation, no problem, no concerns there. But yeah, as I said, I've not had this for an awful long period of time. I've got it from a local plant collector who had an amazing collection. I got it from eBay, and she was based locally, and I was able to actually drive there and pick up the plant so I can minimize the stress on the plant rather than having it being shipped with kind of the mail system. I was getting this plant and one other. So I thought, you know what? It's a 10-minute drive. I don't mind going there and picking it up just to kind of minimize the stress on these plants. And they were both also not particularly cheap. So I wanted to make sure that best care was taken whilst trying to get them into my care. And also because of that, it obviously meant that this plant didn't skip a beat. A lot of the times, even if the plant is in pristine condition, if you're getting it shipped, at some point it's going to go through some level of stress. So it usually will knock back its kind of growth by about a couple of weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, until it kind of comes back to normality, gets used to your environment, which is one stress that even this one had to deal with, but it didn't also have the stress of going through the postal system, being in a box, getting knocked around, not having light for 24 hours, possibly cooler conditions, lower humidity. All of these things contribute to a plant that's a bit stressed when it comes to your care through the post. Not saying that it's something that you can't rectify or something that the plant won't get over, but in this situation, I had a chance to not put the plant through that level of stress, so I decided to go that route, essentially. Now, the one thing I will say is some of the original leaves, and the plant came to me with absolutely zero pests, but I could see that maybe at some point, because of some stippling, this plant had spider mites. And in my care as well, I found that spider mites is the only thing that was kind of attracted to it. So I've already dealt with it. I've dealt with it with the method that I learned from Rachel from on YouTube from Heart-Shaped Leaves. So definitely go and check out Rachel's channel if you haven't already. I swear by the method that she had with the neem oil, the hot water, the warm water, the soap, and spray it on the leaves, and then use a makeup brush, an old kind of rougher makeup brush, and then just mechanically also brush the leaves because it discombobulates the actual spider mites itself. Now, I've had a few people that follow me on Instagram that said probably the brushing has got very little to do with it. The reality is it's worked for me, and it makes me feel better that I'm kind of going the extra mile to get rid of the spider mites. And interestingly enough, and this might come as a shock to people that are just now getting into their collections, spider mites at the moment for me are one of the least stressful pests that I'm dealing with, because I've got my technique down pat. I've got the satchels of predatory mites that I usually get at the beginning of the growing season. I put it on most of the plants that I know will be targets for some of these spider mites. And I also deal with them in the neem fashion that I was talking about a moment ago. This does lead me onto a slight bit of a tangent, but I do want to mention this and actually open this up to discussion. You can maybe talk about this in the comments down below. Try, if you can, whether or not it's on YouTube, whether or not it's on Instagram, if somebody is sharing what has worked with them, and that's all I am doing with these videos, is I'm sharing what has worked for me, for my plants, in my environment, with the care that I'm giving them, in order to give you guys some tips and tricks that have worked for me. You might want to try them. I never will claim that this is the only way to grow plants. This is not the only way to deal with pests, all of these things. And you know what? Everybody's, and I hate to say this, everybody's journey is valid, essentially. So what might have not worked for me might work for you with your plants, in your environment, with the care that you are giving them. It doesn't mean that what you're doing is wrong and what I'm doing is right, or vice versa. It just means that different things work for different people. And you know what? Do you, essentially. The same thing goes that if you do have certain things that do work for you, even if they go against the grain, be brave if you want and share them with other people, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that would like to know of other ways that their favorite plants are being grown, are being treated, all of these things, because it makes for a richer tapestry of information that's out there, essentially. I had a friend recently that was talking on their Instagram, and they were saying that they use mayonnaise to clean the leaves. Now, I know this is a bit of a controversial subject, and they did mention that they basically got their head bit off. But the thing that they didn't share is the fact that this tip was given to them from a massive grower in the Netherlands who produce loads of plants, and that's what they use in the growing environment that they have to shine the leaves and clean the leaves. So yes, it sounds out there. Would I personally try it? Probably not. But there is validity in what things people are trying, and we've all been attempting to do things with plants for a good few decades now, especially the house plants. So just take things with a pinch of salt. If it isn't for you, don't say anything. Just don't do it. You don't have to put somebody else's technique down, essentially, because you know what? It might have worked for them for the last 10 years and it's not caused any issues. And what might work for you might not work for other people. So just be very cognizant of how we all interact within these platforms. And I know a lot of other people have talked about this, so I'm not going to go on too long. I've already kind of gone on way too much of a tangent. But back to the plant. Really easy plant so far. Similar to the Gloriosum, I can't compare them fully because the Gloriosum I'm growing in soil, and I've always done that in terracotta. This one is growing in a self-watering pot with pon. But so far, so good. I will update you guys in a few weeks, months' time, just to see how it's going. One last thing, because I've noticed it again. This is a plant that definitely has extra floral nectaries down the midrib of the leaf. And it's usually 1 or 2 dots, and there's usually a bit of liquid that comes out there. But other than that, relatively simple plant to grow. But yes, now that the slight tangent is over, I've talked a bit more about the plant. If you've got any questions, comments, as I said, hopefully this was going to be a long video. I think I might have gone over slightly with a bit of a tangent there. Sorry. But if you've got any questions, comments about this plant, drop them down below. Let's have that conversation. As always, I hope you've enjoyed. Hopefully I shall see you here soon. And I really do hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.